NBC Nightly News, Monday, August 16th, reported by John Chancellor with David Brinkley's Journal.
Good evening on one of the heaviest news days in a long time. The news of President Nixon's new economic policy has been bouncing all over the country and the world today. The New York Stock Exchange had its best day in history. We'll have a report on that, as well as a satellite story from Tokyo on the market there, which had its worst day in history. From London, we'll learn what it was like to be an American tourist on a day when the American dollar seemed to be, more or less, devaluing itself. The Prime Minister of Britain and the President of France have canceled holidays in the country because of the White House action, and when you can get a French politician to go back to Paris in August, something important must be up. At the center, the President, who this morning met with his cabinet and signed an executive order which puts federal controls on wages, prices, and rents for the first time since the Korean War. The freeze will last at least 90 days, and after that, they don't know. If it doesn't slow down inflation and quicken the pace of employment, the freeze can be extended. Nor does anyone know what ultimately will happen to the American dollar, now that it is being allowed to run the risks of free enterprise in the world's money markets. The European markets weren't open today. It was a holiday in parts of Europe. But there was plenty of talk about the dollar being devalued, and even more talk about the 10% tax on things foreigners will sell in this country. The day's star performer was Treasury Secretary John Connally, who briefed the press on Mr. Nixon's new policies.
We obviously had an unacceptable rate of unemployment. It was too high. We had an unacceptable rate of inflation. Now, again, I don't want to be argumentative about it, but I can say to you that unemployment has gone down in the last several months. The rate of inflation the first 6 months of this year was less than last year, but it's still too high, still unacceptable. We obviously had an unacceptable situation with respect to our balance of trade, where it looked like for the first time since 1893 we might have a deficit in the balance of trade. This was not acceptable to us. Last year, the balance of payments on the official settlements basis was $10.7 billion, much too high. We looked like we were headed for a similar year this year. It was not acceptable. So a combination of events and circumstances culminated in the time that the President felt it was important for him to act, to lay down a whole new series of actions encompassed in one broad economic policy directed toward the solution of these problems. And in one sense, the President's objection has already been achieved. He said, in effect, that we're going to have to enter into new negotiations looking toward a more satisfactory arrangement with respect to exchange rates, because we cannot continue to have a declining balance of trade and a declining balance of payments at the same time that we are providing the military and the security shield for the free world, and at the same time that we lead all the nations in the world, the amount of money that we contribute in the form of aid of one type or another to the less developed and the underdeveloped nations. And we can't continue to do that. We can't continue to spend that money unless we begin to show a favorable balance of trade. We know that there will be some hardships, there will be some inequities, but we think on balance, beyond any question, this is going to inure to the benefit of the American people in many, many ways.
There were a number of reasons for the President's surprising turnabout on economics. One of them, clearly, was politics. Last weekend, the public opinion polls looked very bad for Mr. Nixon. The Harris survey showed 73% of the people it polled giving the President a negative rating on the economy. The Gallup poll showed that 46% of its respondents felt the Democrats could do a better job keeping the country prosperous. And on top of that, there was one other ominous indicator which caused the President to move.
The most compelling reason why President Nixon